You're a waste of space. I wake up every goddamn day sick that I'm your mother. She's right. I should have let Rex kill you when I had the chance.
I'm finally back, and you know what that means. It's time to talk about the Penguin Episode 8 final. You know, I'm a few weeks late to this, but I was also out of country right as the final came out, which was so unfortunate, but holy crap, that final was insane. I've been waiting so long to talk about this because I was flabbergasted by what happened during it. There was a lot of things I called, but there was also a lot of things I did not call, and I was actually shocked, especially by that ending. Now, in this video, we'll be breaking down the episode, of course, reviewing it, and talking about possibly what the ending set up, but mainly what the hell happened during it. So, of course, the episode starts off with Julie and Rush using that red light therapy on Frances to show her past, which it turns out Rex actually took care of her when her boys died, which I thought was really interesting, having him take care of the family. He wanted to pay for the funeral, and it showed that Frances did not want a public display for her kids. She didn't care what everyone else thought. She just wanted to mourn her kids in peace, which I thought was interesting, kind of showing how her character was back then, but also showed out what kind of mother she was, because she knew Oz was needy. She knew Oz was something was wrong with him. She knew this entire time that Oz let them drown. I called it. I said that Oz knew. I knew he was a freaking little monster. I knew he did it on purpose, and even his own mother knew. So she knew her boys were down there and Oz was with them, and said that the cops had to pry the door open, knowing that someone locked them up down there and that she had the devil in her house. And I like how they played this, because Frances knew her little son was a monster, and was really interesting too how Rex taught her how to raise the son, because she always wanted everything. She wanted the fame and the fortune. She wanted to rise to the top. She wanted to be in that penthouse that overlooked Gotham, and Rex taught her how to get that by showing her that he would take in people to gain their loyalty, get the power that he always wanted. So to raise Oz in the same way, where for Rex, it was easy to take control of those people because they needed that father figure. Where in this instance, Frances already had that loyalty. Oz was already in there. He wanted his mother's attention. He wanted everything. So she didn't have to do anything for it. She now just had to mold him into the monster that he would become. And this is why she went dancing at Monroe's with him, was so that she could lay the seed in him to gain that power that she's always wanted. I was kind of right from the beginning, where I thought she would find out about what Oz did, but instead she already knew that Oz did it. And she already knew her son was a monster. Now that flashback revealed a lot. But then when we go into the episode, it gives us Vic bringing the other mobs, helping get Oz back. But they all turned around and said, nope, we're good. They only cared about the product. They didn't really give a shit about Oz. And I love how this gave Vic kind of a backbone. He called them all cowards. Not a single stutter in the freaking speech. He was pissed off because his neighborhood was destroyed and the city always looked down on them. So he's calling them out for everything that Oz kind of said, that the city always looked down on them, that they were always treated like dirt. And I like that Link was the one that stops him before he catches a bullet. Link is kind of looking out for young Vic as Vic calls them all out. So in this moment, Vic got a backbone, he didn't stutter, and he was actually able to call them all out, which I thought was a really good character moment for him, as he's standing up for himself, standing up for his neighborhood, and standing up for Oz all in the same moment. But that's where we pick up with Sophia, with Oz and his mother at Monroe's. This is where we also have Sophia using an analogy of a weaker bird attacking the stronger brother and pushing it out of the nest, just like how Oz did his brothers. He was the weaker bird, literally called the Penguin. He pushed his brothers, who were more loved by his mother, out of the nest so that he could get all that attention. And I like how they even talk about how they keep going with that analogy about how the mother would keep caring for the bird even though and loving it, just like how Frances did that with Oz. Sophia straight up asks Oz about why he left his brother in the tunnels. Also says that Frances asked Rex to kill Oz. And I was like, holy shit. She wasn't actually going to use him for everything she wanted. Instead, she was going to take out her only son left, because that son, it took out her boys. The monster. She lived with the devil. And I thought this was really interesting, showing that Frances was so much darker than I really realized, where she's been using her son this entire time. And even though Oz loves his mother with every fiber of his being, and he's totally a mama's boy, she was still willing to kill him. So that was pretty dark and was not expecting that. But it also shows how dark Gotham can get and how it can consume you as you let the darkness in. But then you had Sophia attempting to cut off Frances's finger to get back for what Oz did to Alberto. And I love how it's just trying to get Oz to admit what he did. But he is so stuck in that lie that he can't admit anything. He will never admit that he did anything wrong. And Frances even saying that she already fucking knows. So it's so freaking dark to show that she always hated him. He's a disappointment, a waste of space. She doesn't want to be his mother, and that she should have let Rex kill him when he had the chance, even stabbing him with a freaking broken bottle. He's the devil. Like, this was such a dark moment to show how Oz's mother has been using him this entire time. She's sick of it. She's lost her mind, and that using that red light therapy has unlocked those feelings once again, something she might have lost with the dementia, really showing the kind of monster she once was as well. You know, it takes a monster to raise a monster, and it was pretty dark to see where it came from. Even Sophia saying that Oz doesn't actually care about his mother because he almost let her cut her finger off. Which overall, this whole moment with the everything going on here was insane. Having all these dark moments, having Oz's mother turn on him. Again, I fully expected after last episode that it would be revealed to his mother in the front, and she would have said all this stuff. She would have still said it all, but in a different circumstances of it being revealed for the first time in front of her, rather than her already knowing all the time. Now, Frances starts to see her boys after this because she's starting to lose it. Her mind is kind of going all over the place because we find out she had a stroke. She falls to the ground, but Oz somehow goes full John Wick with a wounded stomach, full of adrenaline, picks up his mom, shoots the guys, and gets the hell out of there. Bro gets head drops and drops bodies like no tomorrow. And I'm like, holy crap, the Penguin just became John Wick for a solid 5 seconds there, and I was not expecting it. You could really see the delusion with Oz in this moment, because even though he rushed his mom to the hospital, he still cares about his mom, even though after she literally just tried to kill him. It showed that he's so obsessed with her and everything going on that he pushed literally everything she said about him away and was focused on saving her. Honestly, at that point, you would think that he would let her die after everything, but he has so many other problems with his life, and he has so many other traumatic experiences that has built his character that, of course, he's not going to let go of those mommy issues. So I do thought it was interesting. You have him stitching himself up in the closet. He's calling Vic to figure out where Sophia is, saying that Sophia is the one that stabbed him and not his mom, and really showing all the stuff that's dark that's happening. Now, Vic is the one that tells him that Link actually believes in him and that he gave people jobs, got the power back on Crown Point. He gave them dignity, and showed them that Oz is helping the community, just like Rex did, where he's helping the people around him, making the community believe in him, rather than having everyone turn on him. So after this big disaster that goes on, that's going to help the Crown Point and the rest of the slums kind of realize that Oz is this knight in shining armor. Even though he's the villain, he's the monster, he's the one that's going to help the lower people by giving them what they always needed and giving them a sense of community. And I love how in this moment too, he continues to lie about his mom and how she will never look at him the same if he doesn't get the power he's wanted. He's still fixated on what she first put in him, that he had to get that power, that he had to rise to the top so that they could get what they always deserved. So he's still focused on that, even though his mom just called him a waste of space, a disappointment, and everything else that went on during it. Now, I wasn't really expecting all the other mobs to turn on Oz and go to Sophia. After believing she killed Oz, like, they flip-flopped really easily, which honestly just meant they would get killed. Like, there's no way you're gonna jump back and forth between the different freaking factions and be like, oh yeah, now we're with you, now we're with you, now we're with you, without something terribly happening to you guys. Which, of course, it all does after Sophia sets them up as she's leaving Gotham. She's giving them her home that she literally burns down after to separate herself from the Falcons and move on with her life. She's finally taking that step to be like, I'm done. I'm not dealing with this anymore, by giving it all up. And I love how she's giving away her businesses to one of the gangs, but they have to bring her Oz first. So whichever one's able to do it is the one that becomes the most powerful. Which, of course, doesn't actually play out the way she wanted, because Link is the one that gives them up by telling Vic about the bounty on Oz's head and then going to him. Having Oz go into the city hall to meet with Counselor Hardy. We even get to see Bella Rell's name plaque as the mayor, because she became the mayor after running for the mayor in the Batman. And Oz tells him the truth about what happened. Sophia was the one that set off the bomb underneath the city, and that the biggest drug lab was actually Sal Maroni's, and they're working on the drug Bliss. So his whole drug operation was flipped on Sal because he killed Sal in there, pinned it all on him, having it twist to be the Maroni's versus the Falcons, making it everything pinned on someone else rather than it being focused on him, especially because Sophia's G-Wagon is down there and Sal's body is as well. Showing him being the master manipulator. He's been doing it this entire season, and now he's flipped the entire story, then it being focused on him, to the other two factions that were actually targeting him are now the ones going after each other. And because Sal's not alive anymore, it's easier to pin on him. And I love how he's getting Hardy to look like the real winner here as he's taking down the last Falcone. He turned the power back on Crown Point. And in return for all this, he will be loyal to Oz. And he'll introduce him to Bella Rell, which we actually get to see Bella Rell going into the mayor's office. So nice little cameo from her character. But it's also showing that she's forming an anti-corruption, going after Carmine's associates. And Oz needs to look clean to gain her trust. Really digging himself into the politicians in Gotham. So he's going to make himself look clean. He's already pushed a lot of that bad stuff away from him with dealing with Sophia, with dealing with Sal. So he's going to be rising up to have this be this somewhat political figure and do his dirty business behind the scenes. And I love what they did after all this, because they made it seem like Link betrayed Oz by taking him in to get the fortune, and then having it turn out that Link was actually loyal to Oz the entire time, because he takes out Zhao and Sophia's men. And this is all because Oz is offering Link at a shot of being somebody. They take out the heads of the old regime and they're starting a new regime. Link can be the head of the triads, and that's why he turned on Zhao, just like how all the others did to their heads. The second guys, the guys second in charge, took out all the heads. So now that Oz has all these other people under him because he gave them a chance, setting up a new Gotham, and also kind of setting him Penguin up as the kingpin of Gotham, just like how the kingpin from Marvel kind of has all the other mobs underneath him. Penguin has done the same. And I thought it was great that instead of killing Sophia and taking her out, he sets her up and pins everything on her. So I thought this was a really good way of having Chief Bach return to arrest her, having her get sent back to Arkham, showing that everything she's done to separate herself from the Falcones has been a failure. And I feel like killing her would have just taken away a lot of like the emotional damage that was done to it, and it wouldn't really have felt satisfying. But the way Oz and her pitted each other, went against each other, and how Oz ended up getting her arrested in the end of the day, I think that worked really well, because it sets up Oz getting everything he's always wanted, having it so that he goes to see his mom, showing her that everything is done now, pinned everything on Sophia, they can rise to the top. However, this is where they show that Francis actually suffered from a stroke and is left in a vegetative state, which he got everything he wanted, but he never got that validation he wanted from his mother. The one thing he's always wanted to show what he got, and he could never get it. And I think it was great symbolism, showing that even though his mother called him a monster, a waste of space, the devil, instead of getting the validation he's always wanted, even ignoring the horrible things she said of him, he was still focused on the validation that he can never get now. So the sweet, sweet victory he always wanted, he can never get. The tragic past of how he was raised to be this monster by a mother who hated him for what he really did. In the end, she never got what she wanted, and neither did he. So a tragic irony in the sense of they did all this and they never actually got what they wanted, which all led into the park scene with Oz and Vic, the biggest what the fuck moment in the entire episode, where it kind of mirrored the last scene in the first episode where they're having fun. It's a kind of a happy moment, where in this moment it's more of a sad, somber moment. His mom's in a vegetative state, even though he finally got what he wanted. It was interesting to see that it was Vic's idea to bring Link into the fold. Oz was proud of him for this moment, and I thought this was like a good moment. We're like, yay, we've got what we wanted. Vic and Oz are having a good moment after the first time. Vic has raised himself to a new potential here as he's not stuttering as much. He's gained his trust. Him and Oz have become partners in a way. And then Oz fucking kills him. He can't have any weakness, so he needs to have nothing but power. So he takes out Vic, because Vic was the only person left in his life that people could use against him because he cared about him. He couldn't feel the pain of losing someone else he cared about. So instead of, letting those feelings fester and become stronger, he ended it before it could get too strong. So that was pretty messed up. And because I totally thought that Sophia would have been the one to kill Vic in front of Oz, or made Oz kill Vic in front of Sophia to make Oz do something horrible. Like, I was not expecting Oz to kill him this way. I was not expecting him to strangle Vic in the end, because he was Oz's only weakness left. And it was definitely kind of like a full circle moment. Oz brought him in because he cared about him, that he saw potential in this kid who was also like him, had a disability, he was from the slums, and that he lost everything. But in the end, coming back around where Oz learns that he can't have any weakness if he wants to gain this power. He can't have anyone in his life he cares about. His mom's no longer around. Well, she is, but not necessarily in the same way. And Vic was the only person that people could use against him. And now he had to take that weakness out. So such a shocking moment, and I was not expecting it. Now, another moment I wasn't expecting was Sophia being sent to Arkham and getting a letter from Selena Kyle, of all people, saying that she was her half-sister. Now, this definitely feels like it's setting up Selena Kyle in Batman 2, maybe going to see Sophia to meet her half-sister, or something along those lines. But Selena Kyle reference being dropped here as her half-sister, was not expecting it, and I thought that was a cool Easter egg from the Batman. Now, in the final moments, we have Oz in a top hat and a classic suit, just like how we have him in the comics, as he pulls up in his plum Rolls Royce, getting his purple car once again in his fancy one, now living in a penthouse. He's keeping his mom in that tower in a very weird way, having her look out on the city. He gave her what she wanted, which was the view of the city, even if it's not some fancy apartment, but not yet anyways. They're still renovating it, and it's kind of a very mixed ending where it's like she is now stuck with the devil. She raised the devil and now she's stuck with them, even though she's in a vegetative state. And I thought it was really interesting, and also a very gross ending, because you have Eve wearing his mother's dress, dancing with him, and even having her hair like her, saying that she's proud of him and that she loves him. Even him saying, "I didn't, Ma." Major mommy issues, major problems. This guy is so focused on his mother that he has a weird fetish about her. It's kind of gross, but like, it makes sense for his character. The Penguin made his way from the very bottom to the very top, and a lot of weird crap has happened during the season, showing his kind of mental illnesses, his traumatic experiences, and showing what he did to rise to the top. And he's got a lot of trust issues. He has no one he really trusts now, and no one he really cares about either. Now, I was fully expecting him to kill Eve at some point for Eve giving him up and everything else, but I guess he needs someone in his life to kind of push on those mommy issues a little bit. Now, what I will say, it was great to finally see the bat symbol at the very end of the series. Like, that's literally all I wanted, was a reference to the Batman in some way. I was hoping we get a name drop to the Batman, but it was great to at least see the bat symbol get put out. And like I wrote in my notes, that's all I could have asked for. That's literally all I wanted the entire series. And now the Batman's going to come out and be like, bro, what the hell happened to the city? There's a hole in the slums. The mob war is over. Sophia's been arrested, and Penguin's just on top all of a sudden. This guy he saw working for Falcone's is now rise to the top. The Batman is going to have his eye on him. So that's probably what's setting up for the Batman 2. We're definitely going to get Oswald Cobblepot. We'll have Selena Kyle. We'll have the Batman. So I'm really hoping that in the Batman 2, we will get a reference to Oz's rise to the top, maybe going to see him at some point. I'm hoping we see Selena Kyle go see Sophia Falcone, or I guess Sophia Gigante. So it will be great to see what's really going on with their characters as we pick up with the next movie, because this is a limited series. We're not getting a season 2, and I thought they did a really interesting job with the show and how they portrayed all the characters. Now, it really showed Gotham in a different light, and I do love how they kind of gave us this different perspective as we followed the monster, the villain, rather than following a hero. And it's hard to root for a character who's so terrible that every time you're like, oh my God, he's a terrible person. I can't believe he did this. In the next episode, you're rooting for him to get to the top, and then you're like, nope, he's a monster. And it kind of flip-flops back and forth. Now, I thought they did a really good job doing this series as they focused on his problems and his issues, while also showing his rise to the top as he manipulates and controls people in different ways by getting them to trust him, and how he takes care of people like Rex did in order to gain their trust and loyalty as well. Such a good series. I can't believe it's already over, and I can't wait for the Batman 2 after this. Like, I need more Batman series in my life. Even though they are doing other series from the show, I am excited to see how they build out this universe, how they do this more grounded work. And even though I still kind of want to see some superpowers in the Batman series, it would be cool to see what they end up doing with this kind of noir type feeling, and just that dark grittiness of Gotham City. Now, with this series being over, let me know, what did you think of the final episode? What did you think of the big moments? And were there any Easter eggs or references that you noticed that I didn't pick up? Because I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a little bit late, so I'm glad you guys tuned back in for it. So if you liked it, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button to stay up to date with all my DC and Marvel breakdowns. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you when Creature Commandos comes out.